It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha! Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this holiday edition of the Brouhaha. Peace on earth and goodwill toward you too, everybody, and you too, Dale. How you doing, buddy?
Yes, sir. It's a great time of the year, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. You know, and we often have a lot to be thankful for, and certainly, you know, the reason of this season is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and we certainly are thankful for His mercy and His grace, and we cry for it every day.
Yes, sir.
It's also a big time for sports.
Yeah, we fixing to get into a hectic bowl week, aren't we?
Oh man,
Got the playoffs coming up toward the end of the week on the 31st,
Yeah.
and so you know, we all excited about that, I'm sure. And so we got those two big games coming up. Georgia and Ohio State, and
Are they playing?
TCU and Michigan. Yeah. So anyway, had recruiting this weekend.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the recruits, and or you know, last week, you know, toward the end of last week. Let's see, last Wednesday, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, a couple big names from in Mississippi. The Perkins kid from Raleigh decided to stay in state. Of course, we lost the Ocean Springs quarterback. He went out of state to Alabama, and so you know, they were kind of the top two that all the out of state people wanted, and so that was good. That at least we kept one of them around.
Yeah.
And so state seemed to have a decent year. I think they were rated 10th in the SEC. And of course, that's not bad.
No, it's not.
That's like being in the top 10, right?
yeah, I guess it is. They saw a lot of Mississippi folks too.
Yeah, they did, and you know, Southern Miss hit it hard, and Will Hall had like 23 signed, and 4 of them were quarterbacks. So he's still not maybe settled on that position real well, and he still may be looking for somebody in the transfer portal. And of course, now Ole Miss signed 12, but the thing about Ole Miss is 12. It was to me is that they signed like
7 4-stars.
Yeah, and about and the other 5 were 3-stars.
Yeah.
So you know, I mean,
They've never had that many 4-stars in a single class before that I can remember.
You know, of course, no, I mean, so you know, but I'm sure that's not finished there. I mean, I'm sure he's not finished. You know, he's kind of the king of the transfer portal, so he's probably going to go grade up. But just listening to Will Hall on his television the other night, he said that you know, he's got, hey, we're gonna look in the portal for, you know, a couple of defensive backs and a linebacker. So all these coaches kind of coming up with a plan now.
I think I saw in the last couple of days where there was Southern got a guy that used to play at East Central that went to Houston and that came back. Did you see that?
I did.
Is that a guy? What position does he play? Is he a linebacker? He's a big old strong looking guy. I can't remember his name.
I did see that. I didn't get his, you know, I just was glancing at the names. I'm more interested in the hometowns.
Yeah.
You know where they from.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And so I wasn't sure about him, but
he looks like he can help if you look look at his picture.
They did get a transfer quarterback from Clemson that was on scholarship this year.
He didn't get ukulele, did he?
I don't know, but so we'll see how all that's going to pan out. But that quarterback room down there is kind of crowded right now. Kind of crowded.
Yeah.
So somebody's going to be calling for a taxi.
taxi. Listen, I apologize for this call, but folks, I can't do anything about it because I mean I'm just one of a bunch just dealing with this stuff. But I saw a little local flashback. Let's talk about that a little bit, Dale. You posted it.
Now listen, I don't want that fella to get the big head now.
He's a humble guy.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a humble guy.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll give him that. Tell us about it.
Well, you're the one that saw it.
Well, you wrote it.
I write so many things, I forget half.
I'm gonna throw the name so you know. Tony Bowen. What did he do?
Tony Bowen.
What did Tony Bowen do?
Tony Bowen. I've heard that name before. Is he famous?
In my book, he is.
Oh, I know who he is. He's Dale Bowen's brother. That's right. I know who you're talking about.
That's right.
Okay.
Dale Bowen's brother.
Yeah.
Okay. He's a pretty good football player, wasn't he?
Who is that, Dale?
No.
Or Tony?
But Dale, too.
Yeah, okay.
I could play anything they wanted to play.
Yeah.
I mean, walk up there and pick up a badminton racket or anything, and they can make it work.
Yeah, I write. I don't know if everybody knows it out there, but sometimes I put in the paper the oldies but goodies. Things that happened way back. And this was in 1976, and I just happened to be glancing through some of my old newspapers that I have on my computer, and I was looking there, and then all of a sudden I see this Tony Bowen from Jones County Junior College, a quarterback. He was one of like 4 junior college players in Mississippi that Delta State signed that year. And Tony went on and had a pretty good career up there at Delta State. He really did.
That's an athletic family, and they made a lot of contributions. The Bowens and Mr. Robert Bowen, who is going on to his final resting place now, had a big impact on local sports. Coached me in Little League Baseball and so many others back in the day, and just a great sports family, a great sports local family. So we remember you, Bone. Job well done, brother. Dale, who you got for us tonight?
Well, we got a college football writer that concentrates on Ole Miss and Mississippi State. He's going to talk to us about, maybe touch a little bit on recruiting, but basically tell us about their bowl preparations for both of the teams, Ole Miss and State.
Good deal. Well, we're going to get right to that. But first, we're going to hear from our sponsor, and Dale and I'll be back with tonight's guest after the break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome to the show, Parish Alford. How you doing today, Parish?
Dale, I'm doing fine. How are you guys?
Well, we're just getting over this cold snap that we had a little bit before Christmas, so we're just hoping to get out of that. But tell me what your plans are for this coming week. Ole Miss plays Wednesday night. Are you fixing to take in that ball game?
Well, I honestly won't be traveling to either of the bowl games. I'll do Mississippi State and Alabama basketball in Starkville on Wednesday night. But I think we got 2 pretty good bowl game matchups here. I think it's going to be a challenge for both of our Mississippi schools.
Well, listen, let's start with Ole Miss since they play on Wednesday night and State doesn't play until the following Monday. But Ole Miss lost 4 of their last 5. So how do you think the psyche is going to a bowl game after you've kind of come down from, not having a good second half of the year?
Well, it was a very strange end of the season for Ole Miss, and I think everybody could look at the schedule back in August and see that the back end was going to be a lot tougher, and it was. They just didn't really compete well against LSU, and they caught LSU at a time that LSU was really improving. LSU was not that good in week 3 when Mississippi State went to Baton Rouge. But there were other games that Ole Miss should have won on that stretch. And I think the Lane Kiffin Auburn thing really kind of played into the Arkansas game probably more than the Egg Bowl, more than the Mississippi State game. But to answer your question about the Texas Bowl, I think Texas Tech's going to provide a challenge with their offense. But this is that kind of game, Dale, where you get so much more time to prepare, and that's really an advantage for any defense in bowl season. So I'll be interested to see what kind of package Chris Partridge has come up with all the downtime. And I think there's a sense of urgency with that Ole Miss staff right now. I think they understand the disappointment in how they finished the season. I think they look at the Egg Bowl as one that they could have won, and they're really, I think, disappointed, for themselves, but also for what that game means in Mississippi. I think you're going to see a very focused and intent Ole Miss team. Now that doesn't necessarily guarantee a win, but I think they've got a good shot. I think they're going to play well in this game.
Let me ask you this: Altmaier is going to be on the roster for this game this week. Is that true, or will they go down there?
That's my
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. My understanding is that he's available.
Yeah, I just wanted. I just didn't know about the situation with the backup quarterback spot just yet. What about? Okay. Let's talk, but before we talk about Mississippi State, we have to talk about the coaching change and unfortunately about Coach Leach's death. But before we get to talk about Coach Leach, what can you tell us about the new Mississippi State coach?
Well, I'll tell you what, he was really considered, Zach Arnett, really considered an up-and-comer in the coaching business. Now, statistically, you look at his Mississippi State defenses, and they've been pretty good in the numbers, but you can look at some individual efforts that have just been superb. And I really think Zach Arnett was the MVP of the Egg Bowl this year. You go back and look, holding that Ole Miss offense under 100 yards rushing. Nobody else had done that. And certainly LSU defended them well, and they didn't run like they usually run in that game. But they just could not figure out Mississippi State. They couldn't lure them out of position with the motion that they do a lot of times. They couldn't overpower them at the line of scrimmage. They could never get their run game in sync in the Egg Bowl, and that really cost them in the end. And it was clear that Zach Arnett took advantage really of the schedule at that time of year that I think played to Mississippi State's favor when you consider that the Saturday before the Egg Bowl, State was at home in an 11 o'clock start against East Tennessee State. I mean, so they had plenty of opportunities to work some Ole Miss into the game plan, into the practice week during preparation for East Tennessee State. I know that they did that. I think they made great use of that schedule. Zach Arnett had a great plan, and they really executed that plan in the Egg Bowl. I think Zach Arnett, I'm not sure. I highly doubt he would have been on staff had he not been named head coach. But that being said, I think he's a good choice. I think he was going to be someone's head coach at some point. He's 36 years old. I think he brings stability right now at a time that program really needs stability. They were able to sign a top 25 recruiting class, so I think that speaks to some relationships that he already had going on with those recruits. I think he's off to a good start, and we'll see. We'll see how the bowl game goes because Illinois is a very strong defensive team. He'll be facing that with Steve Spurrier Jr. calling plays. I mean, that's going to be new for both of them, a head coach and a play caller, because those are things that Mike Leach handled. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out in the bowl game.
Well, that's great to know that they're in a stable position going down to Florida. Well, tell us about their upcoming game against Illinois. How do you rate that matchup? Because I know Illinois likes to run the football, and so is State going to be up for the challenge defensively?
I think they will. I think running the football is what State does better than defending the pass. Defending the run, I should say, is something they do better than defending the pass. I think that matchup kind of plays to Mississippi State's strength. And, Illinois is a Big Ten team where you don't see this air raid offense every week. I know Michigan has done some things, but they're more, they prefer to be a power running team when they can. Ohio State is obviously very explosive offensively, but I think this is going to be a little bit of a different look than Illinois sees on a weekly basis. I know that Brett Bielema, after struggling at Arkansas, has obviously hit a groove with this team and has built something there with the Illini. But I think there's a part of me that would give State the edge in this game. But there are so many intangibles right now with Mike Leach not being there. I think his death, I think the shock, all of that, I think they've worked through that. I think they've worked through the grieving process by now. But with a new guy in his first game as a head coach and a new assistant coach calling plays, I mean, these are things that you don't know how they're going to work out right away. You hope everything's going to be okay. We'll see.
That's true. Forbes. I know Forbes opted out. Who else might have opted out of this Mississippi State Bowl game? As far as players?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah,
I think seemed like there might have been one more.
Well, I assume that wide receiver that committed to Georgia yesterday or signed with Georgia.
Oh yeah. Anybody he's done. He won't. He won't be a part.
Yeah,
that was an interesting move there. He was their leading receiver, but he wasn't. It wasn't like last year when Mekhi Polk was the leading receiver with 110 catches, and the next guy had 55. I mean, you had a bunch of guys among those receivers who were all around 33 to 37 catches, and that just was that was not a group that Mike Leach was happy with this year. He was constantly calling out his receivers, looking for someone to elevate themselves and be kind of the leader in that group. So that's an interesting move for Ra Thomas.
Yes, it is. Anytime that you leave within the conference. All right, well, listen, let's get off those two. And I know you're the college football writer for the Daily Journal, but what is your take on Georgia's chances in the playoffs?
Tell you what, it's hard to argue with Georgia's chances in the playoffs. I think, first, they're going to be well coached, and it starts with that. And you can look at the talent that they've accumulated, and I just think they're really playing at a high level right now. But when you take the coaching aspect of it and you focus in on one big game, and particularly a game like this where you have the extra weeks to prepare, you look at what that Georgia team did to Tennessee. And I'm not saying that they didn't focus on other opponents. There were some where they were kind of lackluster against Missouri. There were a couple of games when they didn't just dominate opponents, but they really handled LSU in the championship game more than people would have thought. But you go back to that Tennessee game and how they took care of the Vols that day, and I just think that kind of speaks to the coaching aspect. I think it speaks to preparation and concentration and game day calls. And I think Kirby Smart is, he's really good right now. So I like Georgia's chances in the playoff a lot.
I got you. Most people do. I'd rate them the team to beat. Who do you think their opponent will be in the if they get by Ohio State?
Well, people have counted out TCU all year, and they just keep finding ways to win, even when they've been down or even when they, things haven't been going their way most of the game. They've been able to gut it out and somehow, find a way to win. It didn't work out like that in the Big 12 championship game, but it did several times this year. I think Michigan wins the game. I didn't see Michigan a lot during the year, but I watched most of that game against Ohio State, and man, I thought they were really good. And I think they'll handle TCU.
Yeah, that Michigan Ohio State game, I was kind of that's kind of one of the games that you grew up with back when I was coming up. And it was always on every year, and everybody looked forward to it. It's kind of like the USC Notre Dame game or something like that, national game, Texas, Oklahoma or Nebraska and Oklahoma. Was that it? Were those were the big two?
Oh yeah,
and
several games like that we were all very familiar with.
So I kind of still keep watching that a little bit because that's one of the ones that's still around. But what amazed me in that ball game was Ohio State. I mean, Michigan did not have their leading rusher, and they still just blitzed them like that and really hurt them on long passes. So anyway, well, listen. We really appreciate your time, but tell us just a topic about basketball. Which ones have you seen Ole Miss and State play this year, and what are your thoughts on those two?
I have, and Ole Miss seems to really be struggling right now. They just can't find themselves on offense. They've been inconsistent in the post. I think their best players are their guards, and right now, Kermit Davis is choosing not to play the freshman Amari Abram and Deshaun Ruffin together, not playing them at the same time. They may be his most explosive players, but I know he wants to see more rebounding from that position. He doesn't feel like he can put both those guys on the floor at the same time from that aspect, but they've got other things going on right now, and they're just not able to score the way they need to score. State, meanwhile, I think has played really well. I think Chris Jans has gotten this team to buy into the defense first philosophy. They are not a finished product by any means. They had a very good non-conference schedule at 11-1. And it's going to be an interesting game in the season opener, the SEC opener there against Alabama next Wednesday in Humphrey Coliseum. I think State is shooting better than they were last year. I think they're a little more dangerous from the three-point line. Not where they need to be. I think they need to get better there. I think this needs to be a more consistent rebounding team. I think they could be better there, but I think when you look at a coaching change and the start that they've had and almost running the table in the pre-SEC schedule, I think people will take it. I think they're happy with where this team is right now.
Well, go ahead, Dale.
One last question, and I'm just going to ask you because I know you at times covered Mississippi State for the Daily Journal, and you covered Ole Miss sports, but what was your take on Ole Miss's magical run in baseball to the College World Series, since you've kind of invested in that program as far as watching them play for the last decade or so?
Well, I'll tell you, Dale, number one, nobody ever expects that when you're 7-21 or whatever they were in the 7-14 in conference play at a time. You can't wrap your mind around national champions at that time. It was really good to see. I really enjoyed seeing that from Mike Bianco. I know he had a lot of detractors for much of this season. I know that I don't believe he would have been the coach if they hadn't made it to Omaha. And then they got there, and not only got there, they won the whole thing. I think it shows that teams can get better during the season, and I think that's the mark of good coaching. I mean, he found the players to make that run. Dylan DeLucia was not their number one pitcher, not even close, at the beginning of the season. But he found guys and got them in certain roles. DeLucia certainly being one. Hunter Elliott, the freshman from Tupelo, really became that solid, dependable second guy and a guy they can build around this season. So they got their pitching in place at the time that they needed it most, and they were able to go on that run. As good as they could be offensively, you noticed that team miss a step when Kevin Graham was injured. But when he was back and Tim Elko was there, and that team, they could be very good offensively, but you don't win championships if you can't pitch.
Parish, tell everybody how they can reach out and follow you.
Okay. They can find me at the Daily Journal at djournal.com. Some very affordable e-subscriptions there that'll help you keep up with Mississippi State and Ole Miss. They can find us on Facebook. We've got some really good Facebook groups going there with Mississippi State discussion with Parish Alford and Ole Miss discussion with Parish Alford and Michael Katz. So lots of good things going on there.
Okay, guys, you finished, Dale?
I think I am.
All righty. Listen, Parish, we appreciate you so much taking time to be with us, and we are just wishing you right now the happiest of New Year's coming up. I want to ask you to hang with us for a minute. We're going to sign off this segment. Just be with us, and thank you for hang on with us for a second. But for now, we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be back with the final segment of tonight's Brouhaha right after this break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. Dale, I salute you again. You know, I can't do it enough. With these guys like Parish and all come on here, and it's a real blessing. I mean, they know. They know. And
well, they're there every day.
Every day. It's their life.
Yeah, they go to practice and talk to the head coaches, and you and I don't get to do it, so they're kind of our messenger.
Yeah. Hey, our messengers. Boy, that sounds good, doesn't it? We got a whole band of messengers. But anyway, this recruiting cycle's been going pretty good. I pulled up and looked at some of the things that were going on. We may have talked a little bit, but it looks like Alabama's back on number one so far with the number one recruiting cat. Can you believe it?
No, I can't. I thought Nick was finished. He's over. The dynasty's over.
Yeah, well, he's got 7 5-stars and 24 stars signed up, along with 1 3-star. So right now he's sitting on the top of the heap. But what Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah,
they're still signing, folks. Georgia comes in at 2 so far with 2 5-stars, 21 4s. The University of Texas, the new home of Arch Manning, they signed 3 5-stars and 14 4s. Oklahoma, 3 5s and 13 4s. Ohio State's at 6. LSU, number 7, 1 5-star and 18 4-stars. Notre Dame comes in at 8, Tennessee at number 9, Clemson at 10. That's our top 10. Let's see where how's
the polls? How's the latest football polls relate to that? All of them are around the top 10, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a good observation. Of course, Georgia's sitting there at number 2, and we know they're going to finish ahead of Alabama in the final polls. But
this year they are.
Yeah, I guess so.
They'll just swap places here the next few years.
Oh, yeah.
Nick will say, I want to win it this year. Phil will say, all right, I'll take it next year.
There's some things, we've beaten this transfer portal to death, but I want to bang that drum just a little bit more, if you don't mind, Dale. I mean, there's something, Drake Myers, does that name ring a bell with you? He's a quarterback over at the University of North Carolina.
Well, I did hear something about that he was being pursued with a big financial donation. Is that true?
Well, what I read, and nobody's naming names, nobody's naming names, but they can guarantee that 2 schools have offered him $5 million. This kid's not in the portal. And so they're coming to him. No, that's the deal. They're coming to these kids now and trying to entice them into the portal with financial windfall. They've offered this guy $5 million to come. 2 schools have. And you know what, though, about this kid? He ain't leaving. Man, I admire that. I admire that.
He'll get his money when the draft comes around. The pros will see that.
Yeah.
Character.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know exactly what that definition is.
No. I've never had any, but I recognize it when I see it. Here's an interesting couple of facts for you, Dale. In the transfer portal, 3,083 players entered the portal in the 21-22 cycle, up from 2,646 in the 21-20 cycle, up from 1,692 in the 19-20 cycle. I got to wondering, when is the transfer cycle? And I looked that up, and it says the transfer cycle for NCAA football, there's 2 periods. The first one it's 45 days, and it goes from December 5th to January 18th. The second cycle of the transfer portal goes from May 1st to May 15th. Now, there's a lot. We're not even close to the end of this thing. I mean, we're going to be seeing changes probably all the way through mid-May. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? It's hard to keep up, and you got to get these guys into
but it's just like we've talked to Coach Ladner in basketball at Southern and how it's it's like, hey, you got to depend on the portal now because you can't depend on these high school kids. You might have them one and done because they might up and leave you. And then you take a guy like Coach Barry at Southern. When we talked to him last year, USM baseball, he even though the transfer portal was in there from May the 1st to May the 15th, his deal was that the Major League Draft was going to be on the date the Major League All-Star is, which is in July. So, how's this going to affect some of the sports? It seems almost impossible, that you can ever, hey, this is going to be the final roster going into next year on May 5th. No, it ain't. It ain't in baseball,
Yeah. It's madness. It's mayhem. Little tidbit of information, excuse me, to close this thing out. 54% of portal enrollees get a new place to go.
How many?
54%. 41% that enter still look. 8% walk on somewhere else without a scholarship. And so this transfer portal is no guarantee for success. It works for the superstars, but the rest of the guys, I guess it works to some degree.
Well, I'd like to know how many guys that are in Division I that have a scholarship that enter this have to go down.
Yeah. That's a great question, and I'm going to look into that because I guarantee you that more of them go down than go up, don't you?
Well, I'm just saying, okay, let's say you've got a player at Southern Miss, okay, and he's a freshman and he gets down there and he just kind of looks around and says, hey, I can't do this. So he goes in the portal and he has no interest. Where's he going to end up? In Mississippi, he's got an escape route. It's called the JUCO League.
Right.
Where do the Alabama kids go? Where do the Louisiana kids go? Where do the Tennessee kids go? I'm just saying Mississippi's got an advantage, because I had a high school coach that told me the advantage the Mississippi kids have over the Alabama kids is that they have the junior college league when they're coming out of high school. A lot of the Alabama kids, if they don't sign with a Huntington or a West Alabama, they're not going to, be able to come to Mississippi because Mississippi can only take so many.
Yeah.
Each school can only take so many out-of-state kids. So, so Mississippi's got a good advantage with our JUCO league, and we should be very proud of it as far as giving people chances to go on to the next level.
Well, Dale, I think we're about out of time. It's been a great year.
Really?
Yeah, I've enjoyed this year with you.
When will we be back? January the 3rd,
Yeah,
right?
that sounds about right.
Yeah, January the 3rd. Hey, I think I got a guest lined up for January the 3rd, and people need to listen to it because I think he has a great story and a great message for us. Now, he's not going to talk like these other guys talk, but he's going to talk about his 10-year NFL experience. Randy Grimes.
Okay.
He played football at the University of Baylor. He's down there in Tampa Bay now. He's got a deal going, and I want people to tune in and listen.
He has a great message.
He does.
You're right. Dale, we appreciate you. Our best to your family, you and your family this coming new year, and all of our listeners. But I do want to remind you that you can follow us all week on Facebook at the Brouhaha, and on our YouTube channel. You can see all of our programs cataloged there and listen to them on demand at the Brouhaha. But Dale, you know what time it is. It's time to say goodbye.
Goodbye, Dale.
And we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Take us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.